We are live with one Ask Dr. Adriana, and we are here with Dr. Adriana Popescu to talk about insomnia. Dr. Adriana, how are you today?
I'm good. It's funny, I actually woke up earlier than I would have liked this morning. So I think the topic is very apropos with some fresh experience of my own of not really being able to go back to sleep. And I know that this is something that so many people struggle with. I myself have struggled with insomnia my whole life. And it's very different for me now because I have a different perspective on it. And one of the things I want to talk about is how your reality gets created by your point of view. So if you have a point of view, around sleep and what it should look like and how much it should be and what's going to happen if you don't get enough, that's the reality you're going to create. And for years, that's what I would do. I would toss and turn at night. Might have trouble falling asleep, or once I fell asleep, I might have trouble staying asleep, and I would wake up a lot during the night. And I used to think that was really bad. I had this point of view that, oh, this is so bad. And I'd be tossing and turning for hours and looking at the clock and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. And that's what I would create when I looked at it from that point of view. And then when I basically probably around the time that I started doing Access Consciousness, I started asking questions about how much sleep do I actually require? Because I always saw my dad was someone who never seemed to sleep a lot. I would guess he slept about 4 or 5 hours a night. And I didn't really see him being so tired. He seemed to still have a lot of energy. And so I wondered, all these things we've been told, about from the medical establishment about you need 8 hours of sleep, you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. I started really wondering about that because I was hearing people I knew who was seeing being very successful where they might sleep 3-4 hours one night and or several nights in a row, and then maybe have a longer stretch of sleeping 9 or 10 hours. Or I would hear about people who do something called segmented sleep, where they might sleep for 4 hours, get up, do things, and then sleep for like 4 more hours or 2 hours or whatever it is. People who take a lot of naps during the day. I was looking at animals, out in nature, like they don't sleep 8 hours, straight through the night. They sleep for a few hours. They get up, they eat, they groom themselves, they run around, and then they go back to bed. So I started wondering, what is it that, what if sleep is actually something very individual for each person? What if there are no cookie cutter rules around how much sleep you actually need? And what would it be like if people would free themselves from that? So, if you're somebody who uses Access Consciousness, you could use the clearing statement to let go of any points of view you might have about sleep and what is expected, your expectations of what sleep should be and how much you should need and all of that. Or you might use, some other tool that you have for clearing energies, because there's an energy around that. And I know, like when I was a little kid, I would be wide awake. My parents would, make me go to bed, but I'd be wide awake for hours, and I would listen to music on the clock radio. And I would be listening to music and I would just be awake. I didn't need as much sleep as they were trying to make me have. So I wonder, for those people who are tuning in, have you ever actually asked yourself, what does your body require? And what if it's not consistent? That's the other thing. What if it's not every night must be exactly the same and I must sleep exactly? Because that's certainly not the case for me, is I've let my body more lead the way rather than my mind telling me what I should do with sleep. When I actually listen to my body, and some nights I go to bed earlier and some nights I go to bed later, and the amount of hours I sleep really varies, I recognize that every night it's different. So I don't try to force myself to stick with the same thing. And that's really, contradictory to what a lot of, again, mainstream psychology or mainstream medicine tells us. Go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time every morning. That might work for some people. That doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for a lot of my clients. So I wanted to start off with just that basic premise right there and asking a question, because a question empowers. So what what's really going on with you and the amount of sleep you think you require. That's the first question I would ask. And then the other just sort of pragmatic suggestion I have is like, if you are having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, if you're not falling back asleep within 20 minutes or so, or half an hour, I would give myself no more than probably half an hour. If you really can't go back to bed, then be productive. It's so much worse to lay there in bed, tossing and turning and worrying and thinking and letting your mind ruminate and fixate, which is what I'm also going to talk about, is a lot of the reason why people can't sleep. But then just like get up and do something, or turn on the TV, like watch something really boring, like not boring, but like not something that has a lot of edits. Because especially if you're watching TV in a dimly lit room, that constant editing and cutting is like a strobe light, and it actually activates your brain. It like wakes it up more. So something that's really slow and methodical, like the painter guy, what's it, Bob Ross, who did like the happy painting on PBS, like with the afro, like that guy, someone like him, or a nature show, like David Attenborough's, I find so soothing. Or reading, but not reading like a super engaging book, but maybe something that's a little drier, or something that will make you sleepy, or just get up and do work. I've been really productive sometimes in the middle. For me, it's actually, as an empath, being highly sensitive, and I'm going to talk about this too, to the people around me. I actually do better at nighttime when everyone's asleep and their minds are quiet. I actually can focus more and be more productive with my own creations. So oftentimes I like being up late at night, and some people like that in the morning. They like getting up super early for the same reason, because people haven't woken up yet and, tuned into everyone else's stuff. There's so many things I want to say. So I'm actually just going to launch into that, because I think that's so key to all of this. Is also one of the reasons people struggle to sleep is because they're aware of other people around them, like who's sleeping in the bed with you and what is going on with them. Not just like, do they snore? Do they toss and turn a lot? Yes, of course, that can, be disruptive, but like, what's the energy of the person that's sleeping next to you? Are they going through stuff? Do they have a lot of intensity? Do they have a lot of emotion going on? You're going to pick up on that. People have even been known to it's called mutual dreaming, where you can enter the same kind of dream space as the person, or anybody, but especially the person next to you. Like I've had that before, where I've been in the same dream with the person that's next to me, going through stuff together. So how much is that impacting us as well? And again, we have this traditional point of view that if you're, in a partnership with somebody, you should sleep in the same bed with them. But again, I would invite the question, is that actually contributing to your ease of sleep? For some people, it's super soothing and comfortable to have someone next to them. They feel safe, they feel secure, they like the snuggling and the affection. And other people are like, ugh, get away from me. Or maybe a mix of the two. So what if also sleeping in the same bed with someone is actually not helping you get a good night's sleep? And what else is possible with that? I mean, they make mattresses now where it absorbs the movement, especially these foam mattresses. So if someone tosses and turns a lot, you're less likely to have that be shaking your side of the bed. So that's cool. They have adjustable temperatures and adjustable firmnesses. Like maybe that might work, is to have a mattress that can accommodate you and your partner better. Or what if it's okay to sleep in a different room? What if you don't have to sleep in the same bed with the same person every night? Like, what if, I know for me, I've often had snoring partners, and I really struggle, even with the earplugs and everything, I really struggle with a snorer. I know there are things people with snoring can do now. There's treatments. They may have sleep apnea. They might need a CPAP mask, things like that. But what if it's okay to not sleep in the same bed with someone, Again, challenging our notions of what we think nighttime and sleep should be. So I wanted to talk about that. And who does this belong to? When you are tossing and turning at night, when you can't sleep, and if you find your mind is ruminating on things, it might be someone else's stuff you're aware of. So you can ask this, tool from Access Consciousness, who does this belong to? And when the energy is not yours, you send it back to them. I know I live in an apartment in San Francisco. I'm also very attuned to all the people around here. And there's some people living in my building that are maybe not that happy. They got stuff going on. I can sense that, like, around me. Sometimes that impacts my sleep. Sometimes I get woken up in the middle of the night because there's something going on in one of the apartments around me, and I'm aware of it. So again, what you're thinking your mind is doing is not even your stuff. You're just very aware. So that's another tool. Go ahead. Yeah, I know.
And even entities.
Yeah, well, and who are you aware of? There's that topic as well, right?
Yeah, I remember that because like this night, like from yesterday to today, I woke up at night and that never happens. Like I usually like black out at midnight and wake up at 8 a.m. like one point. And I woke up at night and I had to get out of my room. Like I was fully awake. And I went to the living room and the window was open. And when I got there, I had like the awareness that there was an entity like smoking right outside of the window and I had to close it. I closed the window, grabbed some water and went back to bed and I slept normally. Like I woke up 8 a.m. again.
So that's another thing that was, on my sort of list of things I wanted to talk about is that for people who are aware of spirits and entities, because there are beings that don't have bodies or that we can't perceive with, maybe visually, but we can sense their presence. That also can be something that keeps people up at night, because when you limit the amount of input coming in, sensory input, so the lights, it's dark, there's no TV and or computer, that's when it's finally quiet. And oftentimes the spirits that might be trying to get your attention can actually get your attention. And that's why also nighttime can be very scary for some people, because children in particular tend to be very aware of spirits. They often will see them and stuff. And I have a feeling that part of I know I don't have a feeling. I'm aware that sometimes when I was a kid at night, we at one point lived in a house where the old guy who had lived there before died in the house. And I knew his presence was still there. And he at night would like be there in my room and it would freak me out. Because I didn't have tools to deal with it, but I could sense him there. I knew there was a sense of a presence there with me. And he wasn't threatening or anything. I think he was more curious. He probably would have liked to talk to me, but I didn't know as a young child how to do that. I was just really scared. And if you've had that experience one time, what can happen is then you get scared of bedtime. This happens for a lot of kids. You get scared of bedtime because you don't want to see or sense the creepy people in the room with you. There's a book called, in Access, you can find it in the bookshop. There's that Things That Go Bump in the Night. It was written by an Access Consciousness facilitator. And it's a kid's book with like really fun pictures and stuff that teaches kids about this topic and how to deal with it. So I have suggested that to folks who have kids who have that. You can clear entities, you can learn from many different modalities. Certainly talk to the entities, of which I'm a facilitator of. We have tools where we can learn how to clear those entities. We can communicate with them. We can create with them. There's all different possibilities. But if you have ghosts in your house, you can actually use tools to change that, to either get them to leave or figure out what it is they're trying to communicate and like help them move on. So that can happen too, in terms of like who's in the room with you and like what are you aware of. That's definitely a big one. Yeah. What else did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about brain waves, actually, to get a little sciencey with folks. So when we are sleeping, our brains are they slow down the brain waves, and we're primarily in delta, right? And then there are other like more active brain states. So like right now, talking to people, I'm in primarily beta, right? My brain is going, my mind is thinking. There's probably, if you put me under an MRI, you'd see lots of different parts of my brain operating because I'm thinking, I'm speaking, I'm engaging, right? So I'm pretty alert and active. After beta, we have alpha. This is where you're still awake and attentive, but your mind isn't as active. This is when maybe you're sitting back watching Netflix, you're just chilling, you're relaxing, you're not like super in your head. And then we have theta, which is the state of more deep meditation, hypnosis. Theta is where when we're doing energy work, like access bars, that's often the brain wave that's predominant. It some people call it's the hypnagogic state also, like when you're in and out of sleep, like when you can, if you're getting your bars run, you can hear yourself snoring. So you know you're not fully asleep, but you're also not fully awake. Your brain isn't necessarily like super active. And then delta is sleep. So there are technologies and energy work that we can use to actually slow down our brain waves when it's too active. So like if you're laying in bed ruminating, worrying, stressing out about whatever, what happened that day or what's to come the next day, then you're keeping your brain too active in one of these like beta states. So what can you do to slow down your brain waves? Well, there's a lot, it turns out. And what can you do to calm your nervous system if you're thinking and worrying about things, and now you're activating like your whole sympathetic nervous system, you're getting your adrenaline going, your cortisol, you're getting that fight flight response activated. That's going to make it super hard to sleep. That's like the state of anxiety, right, that people would experience. So the good news is that we have a lot of ways to slow down the brain waves. And there are technologies like binaural beats, things you can listen to at night, you know, that will call, like they're very specifically designed with the sounds and frequencies to slow down the brain waves. Bilateral sound from brain spotting also can, it does some left brain, right brain stimulation that can calm things down. You have energy work, access bars, which is these 32 different points on the head that when we lightly touch them releases the energy of all those thoughts and emotions and everything that like tends to stress us out. So yes, I know someone asked a question about that. I find that access bars can be super helpful with insomnia. I love getting my bars run before bed because I am usually out and sleep really soundly. So I do find that Reiki, any kind of energy work, tapping is a good one. I like the tapping because, or EFT, TFT, emotional freedom techniques, thought field therapy. The tapping is the stimulation of acupuncture points. And again, what that's doing is it's calming your nervous system down. It's sending a signal up to the amygdala, which is the emotional center of your brain. It's what activates that fight flight response. It gets your brain in those higher brain waves, higher level frequency, you know, brain waves. What it does is it calms everything down, as do certain breathing exercises. So what we're doing essentially is activating the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is what runs through our whole body, through all our different organs, and it orchestrates this fight flight response. When we're tapping, when we're doing certain breathing techniques, we are activating that vagus nerve to get us out of nervous system arousal, like thinking there's like a life or death threat coming at us. It's, you know, our part of our survival mechanism. Like there's a tiger coming, we must mobilize to run or fight the tiger. It deactivates that and gets us into parasympathetic nervous system calm. So our bodies are able to calm down, our brains are able to get quieter when we are activating certain acupuncture points. And there is an app for your phone called the Tapping Solution app, and they have guided meditations. So it's like calm, soothing, you know, that can also be super helpful for people to listen like to one of these apps like Calm or Headspace, where there's like soft music or maybe like the sounds of nature. People like those machines too that make like nature sounds. Those calm the brain waves down. It calms the nervous system down and allows the body to more easily enter a state of sleep, because your mind is usually, your body is often ready for sleep, but it's your mind that keeps going, that's not allowing it to fall asleep. So the tapping, we can put a link in the comment section. I have a video, I have a couple of videos on YouTube on like basic tapping, like what are the points and how do you do it. So, and one I did as part of a anxiety series, like my top 10 tips for anxiety. So you can find that. And I did a separate video more recently as well, if you want to learn about the tapping, or use the Tapping Solution app, because they also show you which points to use. Breathing, any kind of breathing that gets down deep into the belly, okay? Because when we get anxious, we tend to shallow breathe. So we want to make sure we're getting down deep into the belly, and we want to slow it down, because when we get anxious, when we're ruminating, when we can't sleep, sometimes we might be hyperventilating or shallow breathing. So we want to get deeper. We want to make the exhale longer than the inhale, or we want to make them at least of equal length. I really like 4-square breathing, which is where you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold your breath for 4, you exhale for 4, and then you hold your breath for 4. And if you do like 5 or 10 of those breaths, your whole nervous system will calm down, your brain will settle down, and it might be a lot easier to fall asleep. What else? Gosh, there's so much information I have about this.
Yeah.
The Chinese, coming back to tapping and acupuncture, you know, the traditional, this all comes from traditional Chinese medicine, 5,000 years of it. One of the things that we know is if people keep waking up at a specific time, like say every night you're waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning, a Chinese medicine doctor would look at that and say, okay, which meridians are most active in that time? And between 3 and 5, it's lung. So we might be looking at what's going on with somebody's lungs, or what's going on with their large intestine. Is their body working too hard at night? Those organs, is there an imbalance of some sort? So tapping, or even acupuncture, a lot of people with insomnia use acupuncture to help balance those meridians and balance the energy that might be running too much or not enough. Or there might be energetic blockages of some sort. Doing that type of work can reset the meridian clock. Homeopathics can help. There's supplements. There's so many different things that can assist with this. Supplements that I have found helpful: L-tryptophan. GABA is really good for the head trippers. 5-HTP, kava kava, valerian. I mean, there's 1,000,001 combinations. You can go to a Whole Foods or a health food store, look at all the sleep aids, and just sort of notice like what your body, your vision is drawn to. You can also do something called the sway test, where you hold like a bottle of the whatever the pills are, or the tincture, or whatever you're looking at as like, is this, you know, something that could help me with sleep? And then you just like hold it in front of you and notice, does your body move towards it or away from it? If your body kind of naturally moves towards it, that's an indication that that's something your body might like. It's basically like a version of muscle testing. And, you know, other people do the O-ring or whatever. So you can find supplements also to be very helpful. Okay, so we have a question. Vinny, let's see here. What is the question?
It's
Can you talk?
Is asking.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you talk about awareness of other people's demons creating insomnia?
Well, again, coming back to the topic of the spirit world, you know, there's different types of entities, different types of spirits. There is an energy of spirits known as demons, and they are not there to empower people. Let's put it that way. So can somebody's demons be affecting someone's sleep? For sure. Or someone else's, again, who's in the bed with you, their demons might be affecting your ability to sleep as well. I would say use the Access Consciousness demon clearing, which I'm not going to necessarily give on here. But there is a demon clearing that can be used at night there's actually a couple different tools you can use. You can do entity clearings that include demon clearings. You can also picture your room in an opalescent white light. So if you imagine the energy of opalescent, meaning that kind of pearly, shimmery white that has like different colors in it, opalescent white light tends to deter entities and demons. Or a flame colored light, so reddish orange, bluish violet, like fill the whole room or the whole house with that color light, and it tends to deflect the spirits more. So I would use those tools if I found that there was that kind of activity or awareness of that kind of activity that was keeping me up at night. Yeah. What else did I want to talk about?
Could like bowling and could like pulling energy contribute to that? Like when you were talking about the waves and the way that the brain works, like to calm down, would like pulling and pushing energy like contribute to like reset the energy flows or something like this and reduce the insomnia or get you at least in a more calm state?
It could. I would probably pull energy from the earth. If it were me, I would pull, because I find water in particular very soothing. So I might, if I'm laying in my bed there, I might connect with the energy of the earth, pulling in like the energies, the calming energies of water, like a river or ocean waves or waterfalls or something. Like I just like I might listen to those things on an audio or imagine those sounds in my mind, I could also pull in the energy of the earth and ask it to like soothe my body. I might remember what it feels like to lay on the beach and just like let that soothing energy replace any negative kinds of thinking, worrying, stressing, anxiety. Connecting just energetically, like picturing yourself grounding yourself in your body, right? Being like a big tree whose roots go down in the earth. And then you could pull up energy from the earth. That could be helpful. I mean, I even ask, like, coming back to the spirit thing, like I'll ask like the beings that are there to support me, to assist me with energetically and contribute to me energetically in my body. And oftentimes, like when I can't sleep and I ask for that, I fall asleep a lot easier. So there's so many different ways, depending on how weird and woo-woo you are and are willing to go. There's so many ways that we can do sleep better. And I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, but I will say that having tried a lot of different kinds of sleeping pills over the years, I don't find them to be super helpful. Those pharmaceutical pills for me in the morning make me feel groggy and hungover. So they may do the job of helping me to fall asleep, but I don't think that my quality of sleep is necessarily very good with them. And that's just me. Really what I want to encourage people is to look at what works for you. If pharmaceuticals work for you, great, take them. Better to get sleep than not be able to sleep at all. And you know, what else is possible? What routine can you be doing at night that will help calm you? Like a lot of people watch really heavy duty, like, you know, shows and movies, murder things and true crime. And like, I don't really suggest that before bed. I mean, that's, a lot of people will take that with them into their dreams and have nightmares. If you're somebody who's had trauma also at night, I will say this, like, sometimes kids who get abused at night, they often will also have a lot of anxiety around nighttime. And so again, doing trauma work, using the tapping, using some of these techniques so that your body feels safe enough to go to sleep. And also so you can have deeper sleep. I find that to be really helpful. I've definitely worked with clients who've had nighttime trauma, or they even have trauma from their dreams. They have really awful nightmares or night terrors, and they're afraid to go to bed at night because they don't want to go into this scary dream state. We can work with that. There are so many techniques from energy psychology, from brain spotting and EMDR that can help us with trauma associated with sleep or nighttime. So I just want people to know there's like, find what works for you, be willing to experiment, let go of your ideas that it must be this way or that way, and open up to the possibility of, ask that question, what else is possible here? What other resources are available for me to have more ease with sleep? Use clearings, ask questions, ask your body what it requires. Like this morning when I couldn't fall back asleep again, I asked my body, are we done? Are we done with sleep for the night? And it said yes. So it was like, okay, so now it's time to wake up. And I started doing some things. What you think about before you fall asleep, again, like if you're watching horror movies, that's going to leave you with some disturbing kinds of thoughts and feelings. What if you watch funny things? Like I like to watch Seinfeld or The Simpsons or Schitt's Creek or whatever's on, like at late in the evening. I like watching that before bed. I find funny and humor and laughter. It puts me in a more positive state. I like to do a gratitude list when I'm laying there and I've turned out the lights. What am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for about myself? I use the Access Consciousness mantra. All of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. I might say that 10, 20, 50 times. I find that that's also very soothing to me. Yeah. So we have another question.
Yes, we have a question from Daniela, and she's asking, what about when you can sleep, but you're waking up even more tired as when you went to bed, like moving roads during the sleep?
Yeah, this is when this can happen when, again, I think you have a very active dream time and you're doing a lot in your dreams. People have very intense dreams where like they're running and they're doing this, that, and they can be quite intense, and you can wake up exhausted from that, right? So I would look into lucid dreaming and setting some intentions before bed that you not engage, that your spirit doesn't go and engage in all this craziness. And you have an easier dream time so that your body can rest more. So I'd kind of be asking some questions about like, what is that's happening at night? Where are you going? Where is your spirit going? What are you? Because I think we're going into other dimensions and realities, because our being doesn't need to sleep. Our body's what needs to sleep. So what is creating that? Sometimes it's also, and this is pretty classic psychological stuff. The stuff you're not dealing with in your waking state will show up in your dreams oftentimes, right? Like the things you're conflicted about, whatever's in your subconscious you're not dealing with might show up in your dream state. So also looking at what are you avoiding perhaps, or what are you not addressing it when you're awake that's now showing up in your sleep and actually exhausting you? Could you deal with it when you're awake? And there's a lot on lucid dreaming. We can become more conscious while we are sleeping of the fact that we are sleeping, and we can change the scenes. I'm not super great at this, but I do know that right in my dreams, right before something bad's about to happen, I'll wake up. And so my consciousness knows on some level, like has the ability to change what's happening. So I think if you practice with that, you actually could have more control over where you're choosing to go in your dreams and what you're engaging with, and to make it with more ease with that. Like, what would it take to have more ease with my dreams? What would it take to have more pleasant dreams? What would it take to have really enjoyable dreams rather than something that might be really intense that's actually fatiguing you, exhausting you, or creating upset, nightmares, again, like bad things happening. To me, I wonder what's the unresolved trauma associated with that? What is showing up in that space that doesn't have an opening to show up in your waking state?
Her answer was funny. She said, I hardly remember any of my dreams though, and I would love that at least I knew where I'm wandering.
So then I would look into the lucid dreaming stuff. There's a lot of information on the internet and various places around how to become more conscious. And a lot of it's going to be the intentions you set before bed. So my intention is to remember everything I'm dreaming about. And like there are tools. They have tools for how to become more lucid when you are sleeping. What would it take to be more conscious of where I'm traveling and what I'm doing in my sleep? Yeah. And again, I would look at what are you exposing yourself to before bedtime? That might be part of it as well. You might be I know that if I watch really intense things, sometimes I'll dream about what I just saw, before I went to bed. It'll be like I'll play around with that somehow in my dreams. And so that's not super helpful to me. Anything
That was
else?
awesome. She's saying thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions that people have? Any questions you have about this topic?
Well, personally, I really lay down at midnight and I wake up at 8 a.m. It's like I don't even remember a time when I had like difficult sleeping.
Well, be grateful for that, because you're not one of the, I'd say you're probably not in the norm with that.
Yeah. Like when I was a student, like studying, getting ready to get into like university, I used a lot of tools. Like all of the tools that you said today, I used right before I went to sleep. So like the brainwave sounds, the binaural waves. I really liked I don't know the name of the instrument, but like when you like those deep sounds when people are like slamming. I forgot
The
the name in
sound,
English.
it's
I'm
like the
sorry.
bowls, the singing bowls,
Yeah, yeah,
drums or whatever. Yeah.
drums. Yes, that's it. Those really helped me. And the EFT was a major change in my life. Like I know we were talking about access consciousness, but like using tapping to like solve the sleeping problems or having better sleep when I was a student helped a lot. Like I'm grateful for them because at that time I my sleep was not as good as it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I sleep a lot better myself now than I ever did before. And I used to have to take sleeping pills and all kinds of things. And it's a lot better for me now. And again, I don't have a lot of expectation. I still wake up a lot during the night, but I fall asleep pretty easily. And I acknowledge that I'm just aware, like I'm very aware of my environment. If the neighbor slams the door at like 2, 3 in the morning, I'll wake up. I mean, what if that's a good thing? If there's a fire, I'd like to know it so I can wake up and get out of there. Being a light sleeper, I used to think was a bad thing, but now I'm recognizing that actually it's a way I've developed to stay safe, so that I'm aware of what's going on around me at night. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If you change your point of view about this whole thing, a lot can shift. So I don't make myself wrong anymore for having trouble sleeping. It's like, okay, what's right about this I'm not getting? How can I use this time productively? If I'm having ruminating thoughts, obviously I have a lot of tools now to deal with that. Getting my bars run on a regular basis is helpful. Exercise is helpful. Exercise will regulate your hormones better so you can sleep at night. There's so many things we could be doing. And even standard things like how late are you drinking caffeine? There are people who cannot drink caffeine after 1 o'clock in the afternoon because they will keep them up at night. Like be smart about it. Or if you're eating sugary things, if you're eating sweets at night, you're going to get a spike in your blood sugar. That's going to wake you up. It's not going to like put you to sleep, but maybe drinking a glass of milk because it has tryptophan in it, right? Or eating some turkey before bed, maybe that will put you to sleep because L-tryptophan tires people. Educate yourself, find out about these things. And we'll put some links, in for you guys, and find what works for you and don't be attached to an expectation. Let go of the expectations of this is what sleep is supposed to look like. And if I'm not falling in line with that pattern or that belief or that expectation, then somehow I'm wrong and I'm bad. And, like how much stress does that create? So what if you could create
especially the judgments? You're talking about the expectation, like the judgments, like towards insomnia, towards ourselves for not sleeping, like that is major.
So many people are making themselves wrong for that when they don't need to be. That's just adding to the stress. That's just making it worse. Like, again, don't toss and turn. Like, get up and do something enjoyable, do something productive, but don't sit there like lying in bed, making yourself wrong. That's not productive. Hopefully these tools have been helpful. If you guys want to find out more, check out my YouTube channel, check out some of the resources we've talked about. If you're wanting to take a deeper dive, you can always book a private session with me. There are many, many paths towards having more ease with sleep. And I wish that you all find the ones that work for you.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Adriana.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.